Good morning, everybody. I'm here with the amazing psychic Liz Cross and our good friend Alan Turing. How are you doing today?
Oh, well, me and Mr. Turing are doing great. Was he doctor or was he Mr.?
That's a good question. I don't know if he was a doctor. I
Were you a
don't believe
doctor?
so.
No.
No, he was a mathematician, the first cryptographer, in fact.
Mm.
We're going to do the probe on the inner voice today, and we have a bunch of questions submitted on our Patreon. So if you want to submit a probe or hop on the questions of some of these probes, you need to become a member with us. So you can go to remote viewing and beyond / remote viewing and beyond.com, and you can pay a few dollars a month to be part of our membership. You get access to our Discord, our CTT group, and access to all of the videos that are behind our paywall here. And it's only a few dollars a month, so you get quite a lot of value actually. So we're happy to have you there. We're gonna make a part 1 and part 2 of this video, so we hope you join us for the second part as well. All right, so let's get into some of these questions, the inner voice. And I think the first question that was asked is a good place to start, actually. How do I differentiate between the voices of spirit versus the voices of my own inner voice? And I'd also like to add in the voices that are, not our inner voice, but our mind, our monkey mind, if you will. So how do we
Yes.
differentiate between spirit, monkey mind, and our actual inner voice?
Wow. Okay. That's a great question. So we have to define what the inner voice is, right?
Yeah.
Now, the inner voice is usually that little voice that creeps up and it's very subjective. Okay. So you shouldn't be doing that. This looks like fun, or you know what I mean, like those little messages.
Mhm.
Spirit don't tell you that. Spirit do not talk to you in that way. Spirit want to talk about themselves. Okay, they're very subjective. If it's a voice coming from spirit, that is going to be something that is outside of yourself, and you can actually feel the energy sliding into you. Okay, that's the best way to describe it. When I have a hologram like Alan Turing standing here and he's giving me information, he's sending me that information energetically and it's sliding in. It slides into my third eye. Okay, that is a big difference. And also they don't care. Spirit doesn't care what you're saying to yourself. Okay, that's between you and yourself, not them. They want to know, like, about their loved ones, or you're asking them questions. A lot of times I get asked, Liz, why don't you just sit there and freestyle it? Because if you sit there freestyling and you don't have an interviewer like Mr. Photon or the gang asking and controlling the session, they'll just talk about any old rubbish. Trust me, about overdue library books that they didn't return back in the day. I'm not kidding when I say that. So that's why we have this controlled process of, this is the question we're asking you, this is the answer we want back, or this is, this is where we're the answer, we're directing and guiding the session. You don't want to leave it into just what they can talk about and open freely. You need to ask those questions. So inner voice is really coming from the inside.
Would you say this is the intuition, or it can be, or it
Um,
can't?
it can it be intuition? Yes, it can. I'm asking Turing now. Can it be intuition? Yes. I mean, it can be intuition if, for me, when I have a gut feeling about someone, it's usually a feeling and it's not an inner voice.
Mm.
But then maybe you don't get that feeling straight away. Maybe you're just trying to dismiss that feeling. Now, maybe something needs to tell you, hey, red flag, whatever it is that, or maybe you do feel good. Maybe this will work out for you. So sometimes if you need to expand upon it, the inner voice can tell you something about this feeling, this gut instinct that you're having.
So also the inner voice, I mean, for some people, it can be literally a voice talking to them, but also other people, I would think they would also receive the messages maybe in like dreams or pictures or, you know what I mean? Like, is that true as well? That it's not just everybody is hearing their inner voice in plain English or whatever language they speak?
Mm. Is it that it comes through in dreams? No, no, it really is just the inner voice, the voice that the individual hears that prompts them. Okay. It prompts a response, a reaction most of the time. Okay. It's trying to prompt a response.
Mm. Okay, and that's communicated always in the language of the, you know, the person, or is it sometimes images or?
Is it sometimes in images? No, it's language. It's in
Okay.
the language of the person.
Okay. All right. All right. So now we have a good idea of what we're looking at here. Okay. So how do we differentiate between the voices of spirit versus your own inner voice?
Again, that's coming from that's coming from outside of yourself,
So it's pretty
right?
clear.
Mm.
So how often, like for most people, do they ever hear the voices of spirit really? Like as they do their own inner voice? Like is it a rare thing or does it happen all the time?
No, unless they're a psychic medium or a medium, they don't hear the voice. So when you're psychic, you're usually given just feelings and images, right? Imagery.
Mhm.
If you're a medium, depending upon what kind of medium you are, you can possibly hear the voices coming in. That's usually what the main definition of the medium is, right? It's or how they're getting their information. You can hear it coming in. Now, not all mediums can see who they're talking to.
Mm,
Okay. There are different levels of mediumship. Sometimes they just have to rely upon, it is who they're saying that they are. Me, I have holograms. So I am a psychic medium. Psychic mediums, if you want to talk about the spiritual communication hierarchy, psychic mediums are the top ones. Okay. So you have psychic mediums, and then I would say mediums are more prevalent than psychics. And then you have psychics at sort of the bottom. Psychics are the ones that have to use tools in order to receive communication.
mm,
Okay. So that's your tarot card readers, your pendulums, your muscle testers. What you have to have some sort of tool.
mm,
Um, Not always. I mean, once you get into the flow, you can start seeing things and you're opening up a little bit more. But usually psychics have to have tools. And again, that information is coming from outside of the body.
mm. Right. Okay. So, I mean, from that definition, I don't think I've ever heard the voice of spirit, I guess I could say, like, honestly. So maybe that's why, because it is, like you say, really, you have to have some sort of ability to really hear that or, um,
Right. Unless you come across a ghost that's shouting or making
yeah.
noise. Right. So maybe you have to go into deep meditation, and then you're meeting with spirit on the astral plane or somewhere out there in the matrix, and then you're getting communication in that way.
So that's a
Um
good question. Is that the way so for someone that's not a medium psychic or psychic medium to hear the voices of spirit directly, is it possible through meditation or I don't know, dreaming or something?
oh yeah. Yeah, it is possible. Especially through dreaming. A lot of times when your brain waves are lowered, spirits, loved ones, or maybe somebody you knew in a past life, they come in and they'll talk to you. Yeah.
Okay.
And I love those types of dreams. Those are my favorite types. When somebody, a loved one in spirit, comes to visit me. My biggest problem is that they all show up. Like
Oh,
all
okay.
and sundry show up, and they all try to muscle each other out of the way sometimes.
Okay. And the way you would know that it is the voice of spirit would be it's like super, like there's no denying it. Like that experience is like it's, you know, if you're asking yourself, is this my own inner voice or was that spirit? It's probably not spirit because it would be like unquestionable, probably. That's how I'm thinking about it.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. People know when their loved ones have come into them during a dream or meditation. They know it. They
Yeah.
can
You have like
feel it.
knowing. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Next question. How and what ways to tell the difference with instinct, intuition, and conscious mind, ego, sentimentality? So let's
Ooh.
break that down for you, I guess. So yeah, I mean, instinct and intuition and the ego or the monkey mind. Well, is there ways to tell the difference easily in the moment, I guess?
So the monkey mind is the ego.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so what is it? Is there a difference? I mean, instinct is like things that you just do instinctively, right? Instinctively, you
Or is
have
there
to
a
feed
difference
yourself.
between instinct and intuition? We should ask that first. Is there a difference?
Intuition is a knowing.
Okay.
Instinct is just something that you do without really thinking about it.
Okay. Okay.
Now, the ego can come through on the inner voice. And what we do know about the inner voice, this came about one of our members, Patreon members, basically she wanted to know about the inner voice. And we explored it. We did this massive exploration. And then following that, as things are always, nothing happens just by accident. So the next CTT session I did after that, somebody's inner voice had been plaguing them that week. So we did a CTT session on it. And what we found from both of those sessions was that the inner voice is like sort of like a excuse me, it's almost like a speaker system, if I can put it that way, an intercom system. And who's got the microphone at that moment to say the message that's being spoken through the inner voice? Okay. The ego, it can be the ego, it can be the brain, it can be the subconscious, and it can be the soul. Okay. It is not the conscious mind. The conscious mind is separate from that inner voice. And again, don't forget how we defined the inner voice. The inner voice is a voice that is prompting a response or reaction. Okay? The conscious mind sometimes has to take over that inner voice, right? But we'll get into that in part 2. And we also have a solution that came through on the CTT session of how to control that inner voice. And I actually tried it and it works. So yeah, so it depends who has the microphone at that moment, who is giving that message. So it can come from a load of different places.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Next question. Is your inner voice God talking to you?
Is the inner voice God talking to you? That's a no.
Okay. How do you know if your inner voice is coming from the light or the dark? Now, I'm sure we have light and dark within us, so maybe that
Mhm.
is the case.
And that's a very good question because some of the messages are positive, like, wow, I look good today. Or some of the message are negative. Go ahead, indulge yourself. What's the harm? Even though maybe you're trying to restrict yourself on something. Now that's the dark. And what we have found with the inner voice is basically it's an AI system. This thing with AI, this is nothing new. Okay. And this is how we came across Alan Turing because I was like, oh my God, okay, now we're understanding that the inner voice is AI. Who created AI? And I know a few names were branded about on the search, but I went through the names and I got that Alan Turing was actually the one who created AI. And we asked Alan Turing how he got that AI idea, and he said it was in the form of a download. And he often received downloads for ideas. He was a genius. I mean, this guy was so smart. And so basically, the inner voice is your internal AI system. It is everything. It's all your experiences rolled into one. What does AI do? Well, you ask a question of, like, whatever, Chat GPT, or what's the other one, Grok, you were telling me about, and you get what? It scours the internet, it scours all the information, and it gives you that answer or those answers based upon, all of those experiences and all the information it can find. The inner voice is exactly the same thing, but it may not actually pertain to this lifetime. It could pertain to God knows how many lifetimes ago, right?
Mhm.
So the inner voice, oftentimes this stuff that's coming in, it could be from a past life. You need to pay attention to the inner voice. I know a lot of us, we tend to dismiss the inner voice, but the inner voice is really, really important. The more we're exploring it, the more we need to find out why these certain things are being said, and what are we going to do about it? Because it's really saying, anytime you have something negative coming into your energy field, that is, you have to start swapping this around. And again, this is great because it follows on the victim mentality probe. Now, for those of you looking for part 2 of that victim mentality probe, that's on Patreon. That's behind a paywall. Okay, patreon.com/remote viewing and beyond.
Mm.
Again, that it's all alignment, right? So basically, you've got to learn and pay attention to this inner voice. Every time something negative happens to you, you need to wake up and you need to say, okay, this is something that I need to heal. What is it that I need to know about this situation in order to make it heal, or in order to heal it? Somebody did put a comment on the YouTube, oh, we're in the age of whatever, and all karmic debt is going to be, no, okay, it's going to be really, no, no, sorry. You have to process it. Nobody's going to process it for you. It has to be done yourself, okay? So the inner voice, whenever those negative messages are creeping in, pay attention to that. It is your AI system.
Right. Okay. Can you hear your inner voice better if you were on a long-term fast? But I want to qualify that first. So
Mhm.
let's ask first about a long-term juice fast.
Can you hear your inner voice better if you're on a fast? It doesn't matter if you're on a fast or not, what Turing is telling us. What matters is if you're paying attention. The
Right.
voice is always there. Now, there are some people that do not have access to that inner voice, and I forgot what they classify that as, and that's something to be explored on a different video. Uh,
Could I ask if it's
yeah.
my first thing that comes to my head would be like on the far like uh scale of autism, like really like on the on that scale, high on that
Is it
scale.
autism scale? No, it's
Okay.
a brain wiring fault. So
Okay.
it's a disconnect somewhere in the brain. And so who is responsible for sending the inner voice to us? So it's the brain's responsibility to pick up the inner voice, but the inner voice is actually held in the subconscious. Now, the subconscious is an amalgamation of everything, okay? It's like the information superhighway center. It's the control center. You've got the brain, you've got the conscious mind, you've got the subconscious. Everything you've ever thought, felt, or experienced in this lifetime is stored in the subconscious. Then you've got, the soul, and the soul sends money, sends things to the subconscious as well. So you've got all these things going on with the subconscious, all this communication going on with the subconscious back and forth all the time.
Okay, next question is how do you, or let's ask, can you turn off the negative inner voice?
You can switch it off, yes. And a lot of people do choose to ignore it. That's not fixing the problem. That's only a temporary relief system.
Okay, so how
That
do you turn it off? I didn't think
well,
that was,
you would ignore it.
but you just said that ignoring it would be um, not fixing the problem.
Right. But if you want to just turn it off, yes, you would just ignore it.
So what tools could we use to actually turn off the inner voice? Would that be like, for instance, as an example, countering it with positive things with the
Ooh,
conscious mind?
can you counter it with a positive thing? I mean, you can. Yes, so that's where you enter into that battle with the conscious mind and the inner voice. Um, but it actually doesn't fix the problem. And I'll tell you how to fix it on part 2, but
Okay, yeah.
it doesn't fix the problem.
All right, well, that's a good way to maybe end the part 1 is we're going to find out how you can actually turn off the negative inner voice, which would be good, which would be great for all of us because that all, pokes its head in there from time to time. So we're going to do part 2 of this video for our members. Again, if you want to become a member and see all the videos and all the content and be part of our CTT group, you need to visit patreon.com/remote viewing and beyond.com. And you can spend a few dollars a month to receive all of that value. So we invite you to come and join us on the second part of this video.
Yes, please do. Don't forget, Mr. Photon does have a tip jar listed down below. Thank you so much.
Thank you.